It's time for another blistering report from the front lines of the cultural war for a constitutional America. And now, here's your host, Charles Benninghoff.
The fix was in from the very beginning. There was never any chance that FBI Director James Comey and Attorney General Let 'em Loose Loretta Lynch were going to indict Hillary Clinton. This, in spite of the fact that Hillary Clinton committed crimes that were so egregious that any lower-ranking government or military employee would now be in prison for having done just the same. I believe that James Comey should be impeached and removed from his position as FBI Director, and I'll explain to you exactly why in this video. Now, this is going to be a long video, but there's a lot of facts you got to know. We've been building the case for impeachment of James Comey, and we've produced previous videos that talk about Comey's direct personal and professional connections to the many co-conspirators in the Clinton crime family. Today, we want to show you the many Comey connections, the interconnecting links between Comey and all of his co-conspirators. We want to lay out all the players and their public and private sector relationships with each other for you. The result of organizing all of this known interlocking connection produces a flowchart that looks just like the 5 mafia families of New York family tree, like you see in the whodunit movies. Except in this case, we already know who done it. We'll tell you who paid whom when we can, and it should be easy to see that there's much more than meets the eye going on here. At the end, you'll all see that James Comey is a very wealthy man because of his membership in the Clinton crime family, and therefore he should have recused himself from the Hillary Clinton investigation. After you've seen and heard all this evidence, I'm convinced that you'll join us in calling for the impeachment of James Comey. And I want to make something else very clear from the outset. None of what I'm going to tell you is some kind of conspiracy theory. Every word that I'm telling you is from published facts, from reliable sources, published on the internet from sources like WorldNet Daily. You can't get any better than WorldNet Daily. And also, all of this information is publicly available. You can check me out. You can research it yourself. As well, you can find most of this just by looking at the Wikipedia pages for the various players. This is a conspiracy that is happening right out in the open. And why is it in the open? Because they have the system of prosecution for criminal conduct rigged. We may be the first to put it together in one big mafia family tree chart, but all the data, the bits and pieces, are lying about all around the web. America just needed someone young enough, energetic enough, patriotic enough, driven enough to seek to protect America's freedoms enough to present this data and not be afraid of Mr. Comey's minions visiting me in the middle of the night with a SWAT team marching in lockstep ever so quietly in their $1,500 a pair gumshoe combat boots and SEAL team costumes up to our front door, which consists of 2 gigantic oak doors that are really the epitome of craftsmanship. And you know, I hate to see him blasted in with a concussion grenade, throwing us on the ground. Well, but that may happen, and you get the picture. This area is for the brave only territory. So join with me and let's see how the pieces fit together. Since the adventure, the excitement, the joy of disclosing all this data in one place to a free nation hungry for the truth, and that's why you should join in. So let's get started. The central figurehead of all this, of course, is Hillary Clinton. She was Secretary of State from 2009 through 2013 and quit that job so she could run for president in 2016. Before, she was a senator from New York, and she was First Lady in the White House. I use the term lady very loosely, just like I use a madam, but the word madam has a second meaning which very well fits Mrs. Clinton. She was the First Lady from 1993 to 2001. Then you have Bill Clinton. Hillary's husband. He was, of course, president and was impeached for lying to a grand jury about his infidelities with a paid White House staff member, Monica Lewinsky. In the 1990s, the Clintons formed a nonprofit called the Clinton Foundation. The original purpose of the Clinton Foundation was to raise funds for Bill's presidential library. But the Clinton Foundation, without legal authorization, has grown into an international, globalist money laundering group that has accepted billions of dollars in contributions from foreign governments, Muslim oil tycoons, weapon contractors, arms dealers, terrorists and sponsors, and more of that ilk. This has given the Clintons incredible wealth and leverage, and the leverage to throw that wealth and power around Washington, D.C., and they've done it quite ably. Keep in mind that the Clinton Foundation was taking in hundreds of millions of dollars in donations from 2009 to 2013, when Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State. This is the point where our saga actually begins, even though there was rampant corruption surrounding the Clintons as early as his governorship of Arkansas. Just take one example. When Hillary Clinton started running for Senate in New York, who was in first place? His name was Kennedy. What happened to Kennedy? He drove his airplane into the ground. Oh, big mistake, right? Big mistake for flying an aircraft while you're running against a Clinton. There's a one-way ticket, and you know what? That ticket never lands. Along the way, there's been this string of dead bodies. And just another more recently, when a young DNC participant became disgusted with Clinton and released detailed information resulting in the firing of then DNC head, Ms. Wasserman. The release of this data also resulted in his murder. Don't stand in the way of the Clintons. That's why my oak doors may tumble down with a concussion grenade. It must also be kept in mind that many of the groups that donated to the Clinton Foundation were petitioning the State Department for contracts, weapons deals, and favors all at the same time. That's why you hear the term pay to play come up so often when news reports talk about the Clinton-run State Department during that period, because that State Department indeed was pay to play. So now let's go down another layer into our web of conspirators all working in the Clinton crime family. At the next level down, we have Cheryl Mills, Loretta Lynch, James Comey, and his brother Peter Comey. Let's start with Cheryl Mills. Mills is an attorney, and for her first job out of law school, she worked at a law firm called Hogan and Hartson. Remember that name, Hogan and Hartson. This is a firm that has done tax preparation for Bill and Hillary Clinton. In 1993, Cheryl Mills became a counselor for the White House. She has been with the Clintons ever since, sometimes on, sometimes off, but I think always on. She advised the Clintons during the Whitewater scandal, which I'll talk more about in a bit. She was also the attorney for the Clintons through the entire Ken Starr investigation of Bill Clinton. You know, the Monica stained dress Lewinsky scandal, the impeachment trial, and so on. Mills was there through every swing of the bat. Brings back a lot of memories, doesn't it? That cute smile, that dark-haired young lady. Then Mills worked in the private sector for a few years until Hillary Clinton became Secretary of State, at which point Mills went to work for now Madam Secretary Clinton at the State Department. Mills was drawing a salary from the State Department while she was also serving on the board of directors for the Clinton Foundation. Now, there's nothing illegal about that. What happens is if you do both at the same time, that's when you might cross the legal boundary. The Clintons claim that Mills' foundation work was free, but others say she was double dipping, drawing a salary from the taxpayers and the Clinton crime family directly, all at the same time. Mills was the attorney and chief of staff for Secretary of State Clinton. The two of them exchanged thousands upon thousands of emails, some of them classified, on Hillary Clinton's private secret email server. At least she wanted to keep it a secret. Didn't work out that way. Mills was a key figure in the Clinton email investigation. Since Mills worked for the foundation at the same time that she was on the payroll of the State Department, Mixing up her time in both places, I believe and I allege, it is reasonable to conclude that her email messages could well have involved both issues flowing at the same time, possibly even when she was on the payroll at the State Department. And that could be a violation of a federal statute. And you'll find out why all these computers have been destroyed in a few minutes. At least you can logically conclude why. That could also be the reason why Madam Secretary Clinton had her email server erased. Or was it Attorney Mills who had that done? I'm positive that eventually America will find out the truth of how that happened. Now, let's jump over to Let 'em Loose Loretta Lynch. Let 'em Loose Loretta is another lawyer in the Clinton crime family. Back in her college days, she was a best friend of former Attorney General Eric Holder's wife. In 1999, Loretta Lynch was appointed U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of New York by Bill Clinton. She kept that job until George W. Bush was elected, and then she quit in 2001. One of the cases that Let 'em Loose Loretta prosecuted, and did so quite badly, was the case against the alleged money laundering activities of HSBC Bank. Now, HSBC Bank is a Hong Kong and London-based international bank that was caught allegedly laundering funds for Mexican drug cartels and terrorist groups. And while I firmly believe they were as guilty as sin, I have to say allegedly because Let 'em Loose Loretta did what she's named for. She let 'em loose. In fact, Let 'em Loose Loretta failed to send a single banker to jail and was only willing to force the HSBC Bank to pay a fine for all this illegal conduct. Remember, HSBC, because that will come up again pretty soon too, HSBC. In 2001, Lynch took a job working for Hogan and Harston. As you may remember, we talked about this firm a couple of minutes ago. Let 'em Loose Loretta worked there from 2001 until 2010, when Obama renominated her for another U.S. Attorney job. Hogan and Harston, you remember, is the same firm that Cheryl Mills worked for, the firm that does Bill and Hillary Clinton's tax returns. When Loretta Lynch worked at Hogan and Harston, now known as Hogan Lavelle after a merger, the law firm worked on a software patent for a company called MX Logic. That's M as in mother and X as in X-ray. MX Logic. MX Logic software, just coincidentally, was used on Hillary Clinton's private homebrew server. Makes you wonder how Madam Secretary Clinton, whose expertise in computers is limited to sending emails on a BlackBerry, well, you get the point. Let me break that down again. The current Attorney General, Loretta Lynch, worked at the law firm that prepared Bill and Hillary Clinton's tax returns and worked for the same firm that worked on the software patents used on Hillary Clinton's server. Let 'em Loose Loretta was in charge of the investigation into Clinton's email server that was operating MX Logic software. Isn't there a conflict there someplace? Then, Let 'em Loose Loretta became Obama's Attorney General in 2015, and on a fateful day in June 2016, Let 'em Loose Loretta crossed paths with her old friend Bill Clinton, and I wonder where she did that. Well, that was a private jet on a tarmac at the Phoenix airport, totally unannounced, and had it not been for one patriotic newspaper reporter who refused to listen to the Secret Service agents telling him to go away, stood his ground, and captured on videotape the meeting between Let 'em Loose Loretta and Bubba in a private jet at that fated Phoenix airport. That was just days before FBI Director James Comey announced that no reasonable prosecutor would bring a case against Hillary Clinton. So let's talk about James Comey and his connections to the Clinton crime family. Well, Comey's involvement goes back to 1996. 20 years ago, Comey joined the Senate Whitewater Committee as a deputy special legal counsel, which is an attorney position. The Whitewater investigation dragged on for years, by the way. That scandal involved shady real estate deals that Bill and Hillary Clinton invested in as far back as the 1970s. There were several deaths connected to the Whitewater scandal, including White House Deputy Counsel Attorney Vince Foster, who was found with a bullet hole in his body, which was somehow converted to a suicide. The Clintons' former business partner, Jim McDougal, died in prison for his crimes in the Whitewater scandal. The whole issue was a complicated conspiracy to defraud and mislead investors, but as now, the Clintons were not indicted for Whitewater. But don't you find it curious that James Comey was involved in another investigation 20 years ago in which the Clintons got off scot-free? In 2002, Comey was appointed U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York by Bush II, whose family now largely supports the socialist Clintons, despite having claimed to be conservative Republicans for generations. World Net Daily reports that Comey and Let 'em Loose Loretta crossed paths in the investigation of the HSBC money laundering bank. Comey left the Justice Department in 2005, and he took a job working for a defense contractor called Lockheed Martin. He kept that job through 2010. Well, let's talk about Lockheed Martin for a second. In 2010, while Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State, Lockheed Martin donated $250,000 to the Clinton Foundation. That's a big $250,000. Lockheed also paid Bill Clinton another $250,000 for a speech that Clinton delivered in Egypt. A $250,000 buckaroos for one of Bubba's speeches in Egypt. Isn't that interesting? What was he doing? Talking to the pyramids? Lockheed Martin was awarded 17 different defense contracts by the State Department in 2010 after those donations were made. You see what $500,000 will buy for you? Paying for trips so Bubba can see the pyramids for Lockheed Martin really paid off. And James Comey, who then just happened to be the lead attorney for Lockheed Martin, was almost certainly involved in those deals. And he was paid a salary of $6 million for his services. Lockheed Martin's primary customer is the United States government. So in reality, both the $250,000 speaking fee to Bubba, the $250,000 donation to the Clinton Foundation, and the $6 million payment to Comey were all from taxpayer funds, or at least most of them. So when Comey's work was done at Lockheed Martin, Comey took a job for HSBC Bank, the same bank that was caught laundering money for the drug cartels and terrorists, and of which Let 'em Loose Loretta did not prosecute any banker and just collected a feel-good fine from the bank itself for having laundered drug cartel loot and money for terrorist organizations. The HSBC Bank, by the way, is also deeply intertwined with the Clinton Global Initiative, which is an international money sponge promoted by the Clinton Foundation as an excuse to slurp up millions of dollars from despotic Muslim dictators and strong-arm murderers around the world. HSBC and the Clinton Foundation also worked together on green energy scams that bilked taxpayers out of tens of millions of dollars, like Obama's Solyndra scam. If you want to know more details about Solyndra, just ask in the questions and we'll respond. James Comey was working at HSBC when Obama appointed him to become FBI director in 2013 for a 10-year term. So Let 'em Loose Loretta then became James Comey's boss when she became Attorney General in 2015. During the criminal investigation of Hillary Clinton's email server, James Comey struck a very unusual side deal with Cheryl Mills, the longtime consigliere of the Clinton crime family. In exchange for immunity and permission from Mills' attorneys to examine Mills' laptop, Comey signed off on a side deal that the FBI would destroy Cheryl Mills' laptop. How you like that? That's like destroying DNA evidence in a murder trial. And in fact, because there are so many issues that are unanswered here, the destruction of that Cheryl Mills' laptop was exactly like destroying DNA evidence in a murder trial, because the DNA of the laptop, the little nooks and crannies of the email information and other data on that laptop could only become relevant upon the disclosure of subsequent data. But that was not allowed. Comey himself, I understand from reliable sources, has authorized this side deal. And this is the same laptop that Mills used to exchange thousands and thousands of emails with Hillary Clinton on Hillary Clinton's prime home server using software patented with the help of a law firm that does the Clintons' taxes, the law firm that Cheryl Mills and Loretta Lynch both work for. And very briefly, I'll cover Peter Comey, the brother of James Comey. Peter Comey works for DLA Piper, a Washington, D.C. based law firm. DLA Piper conducted the 2014 audit of the Clinton Foundation. DLA Piper is also the number 6 all-time biggest financial donor to the Hillary Clinton campaign as a political candidate donation. That's the firm that Peter Comey works for. I think that's a strong connection. Look at this bird's nest of connections. It's so intertwined. Arrows and lines and things going here and there. It looks like a bird's nest. But you know what? In my opinion, it's nothing but a crime family tree. Just like the 5 crime families in New York have trees published by the FBI, this is one that we published about the Clinton crime family. This is such a tangled web of corruption that it's hard to believe this has gone on without anybody noticing all these connections and putting them together in one place. But now you know. We have this crime family map as a PDF on our action page. So you can download it and read it for yourself and study it and look at it really closely and listen and re-listen to this tape, this video I'm doing for you. FBI Director James Comey has direct public and personal financial connections to the Clintons and the key players in this scandal. If he were an honest man, which in my opinion clearly he is not, he would have recused himself from the Clinton investigation and called for an independent investigation. In fact, Comey promised the Senate during his confirmation hearings that he would recuse himself from any investigation that involved his former employers. And certainly that has not happened. But he didn't recuse himself, so he's a provable liar. Comey has received millions of reasons from American taxpayers to exonerate Hillary Clinton, and every one of those reasons went through his bank account. So I think you can now see that the fix was in from the very beginning in the Clinton crime family tree we have for you to download on our action page. Clearly shows that Comey's connections to the bosses, the capos, the crews, and the consiglieres in the Clinton crime family date back to at least 20 years. This is organized crime, folks. We have a law for that, and it's called RICO. RICO, R-I-C-O, Racketeer Influence Corrupt Organization Act, an act that was designed to put down crime syndicates like the Clinton crime family. There are many other figures that we've left out of this chart that could be included, but these are the main ones that show the ongoing relationship between the head consigliere Comey, the Attorney General Let 'em Loose Loretta, the Clintons, and their crime family consigliere Cheryl Mills. Is it any wonder that Hillary Clinton was not indicted for mishandling classified information? James Comey is, by all appearances, a member of the Clinton crime family inner circle. This is why we're calling on Congress to draft articles of impeachment against the consigliere Comey and remove him from his position of authority. You can help accomplish this and thereby become a part of living American history, and do so from our action page on our website. And we'll have instructions for you to do that on our next screen given to you by Bob Mallory. This is Charles Benninghoff signing off and wishing you freedom, fulfillment, and God's many, many blessings.
Tell Congress to impeach the Clinton cover-up commander James Comey. If you're on our action page on our website, just use the form to the right of the video screen to select a program. If you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook, click the icon appearing now to find a link to our action page, or check the video's description to find the link. Speak out today.